welcome to my very first, and with technical difficulties, my very first episode of Building My Wealth. I hope this is going to be one of many. I don't know about these technical difficulties, but we're getting there, right? Um, so, Building My Wealth is meant to be a resource for Canadians to learn from industry experts on how many Canadians can build their wealth. Over time, we're going to be talking to many financial advisors, accountants, realtors, lawyers, estate planners, industry experts who are going to help us financially grow. So I'm going to start off with the very first episode today, doing a four-part mini series on how to obtain a mortgage so that you can buy a house if you're a self-employed person. You might have heard that getting a loan to buy a house if you don't have a traditional job um, may be hard. You know what? It may be that you're just going to the wrong bank, which happens a lot. In my four-part mini series on how a self-employed person gets a mortgage, I'm going to be going over some general overviews, talking about the struggles and some of the myths that people have about mortgages. Part two, I'm going to go over um, what lending options you might have. Part three, what income you can use. Some general advice on how someone, just general advice how you can sort of tie it all in together, whether you're self-employed or not. There's going to be a lot of good advice anyway. There's really so much that can be talked about that I just had to break it down into smaller chunks. So I'm just going to be talking about it for the next few weeks. But you know what? Let me first start by introducing myself, and a deep breath here. Okay. I help people find money so that you can finance your dreams. Maybe the dream of buying your first home or refinancing your existing home so that your dreams can become reality. My name is Juanita Heidebrecht. I am an Ontario mortgage agent with Bricks Mortgages, a great supporting mortgage brokerage. They're actually one of the fastest growing brokerages in Canada. As a mortgage agent working with a brokerage, I have access to many lenders, which means I have access to banks, credit unions, financial institutions, alternative lenders, B lenders, and private lenders. I am the founder of Building My Wealth website and podcast, a resource of various financial industry professionals, experts dedicated in providing valuable information how to build your wealth. I'm also the founder of Wealth Building Divas, a ladies only professional networking group in Ontario. I'm also a mom, an avid reader. I'm working on becoming a published author, crafter, and I love dogs. For today's episode, I'd like to talk a bit about an overview of what it takes for a self-employed person to be able to purchase their first home, and go over some of the obstacles they face. For starters, I want to put an end to the myth that buying a house as a self-employed person is hard or close to impossible. So I want you to picture this. You have a screw that's screwed into a piece of wood and it has a cross on it. I believe it's called the Phillips head. And you have it installed somewhere and you need to remove it. Now you have a flathead screwdriver. Depending on the size of that screw head and the size of the screwdriver bit, chances are you'll be able to uninstall it. It might take you longer. It might, you have to work at it a bit harder. And you might strip it a bit. You might slip off several times, but eventually you do get the job done, right? And that's kind of what people sometimes go through as a self-employed person trying to get a mortgage. And even the average person sometimes, sometimes may go through that. You'll get the job done. It may not fit right, but it gets the job done somehow. It takes you longer. Um, Part of the problem I see is that there's a good number of people out there who think that banks are the only safe and credible lending option. And on top of that, think that all banks are all the same. Well, no wonder obtaining a mortgage is hard for self-employed, and that myth just keeps prevailing today. So you, as a self-employed person, talking to a mortgage agent is going to be, talking to a mortgage agent who works for a brokerage is going to be your first stop. A local bank isn't going to cut it for you. You can talk to one bank, and if they're not the right fit, or they fit poorly or not at all, then you're hopping to another bank and then another one. You're going to waste a lot of valuable time. As a self-employed person, do you really have that kind of time? Another myth is that self-employed people can only use private lenders, like they're the only option, and that's simply not true. What type of lender uh, you're going to use really depends on your financial situation. Many people have a mortgage for 25 or more years. Using a private lender is a good temporary solution for some, but generally speaking, it isn't going to be a long-term solution. We could talk more about private lending another time because there's so much that can be said. Like that could be a whole episode on its own. Depending on your financial situation and your short and long-term goals, there are a wide variety of lending options. You have the traditional banks, credit unions, financial institutions, subprime and alternative lenders. You also have a variety of private lending. But for sake of this conversation, we're going to stick with long-term solutions, okay? Where it makes sense, right? So we have, first of all, if you're self-employed, finding the right lender for you is going to be super important. Two, working with a mortgage agent to help you find that right lender is going to save you time and money, and it's going to open a lot of doors to a number of lenders you wouldn't even known about. If you don't already have one, I would recommend you get a real estate agent. I wouldn't stop with just the mortgage agent, the realtor on your team. If I were you, I would stack the deck in your favor. Um, if your business is incorporated, you're for sure going to need an accountant. And in many cases, you're going to need an accountant anyway, prepare the financial statements on your behalf. Not always. Let's say there's a small portion of your income is considered self-employed and you declare everything on your taxes. The lender might be okay. I mean, it really depends on the lender and your financial situation. I recommend having a home inspector on your team, along with your real estate lawyer. It depends on your timeline, though. You may want to start with a financial advisor right off the bat, because they're going to have many ways of money saving ideas and many ways to do it. And they're going to assist you with any available first time homebuyer programs. I highly recommend putting together a good kick ass team to guide you through that journey. Okay. Now, your income is super important as it would be for anyone else. Though it's really easy to show your income if you're employed. You have pay stubs, you have T4s and tax returns if you need them. However, if you're self-employed, showing income may not be so straightforward. Maybe you're dealing with T4As, invoices, sales taxes. Then you've got expenses. Um, maybe you're a partner in a business, sole proprietor, or you're incorporated. Maybe you're the kind of person who likes to stick it to the man and claim everything. There is so much that can be covered just in uh, just on self-employed income that I'm going to talk about it all, or at least the best I can, in part 3 or 4 of the series on how self-employed Canadians buy a house. Another thing some people don't give much thought to is about their credit score. I'm always saying, always be improving your credit score. It's not a mystery on how to improve your credit score. It really comes down to good habits over time. However, if you're finding that you're already doing that, you already got the good habits in place, and your credit score can't seem to get any higher, I have a whole webinar that talks about that on how to improve your credit score. Feel free to send me a message and I'll send you that link. Another important part of your purchase is going to be your down payment and closing costs. Your down payment is a small percentage of the purchase price that you're of the purchase price you're putting towards the house. Okay, it could be as low as let me start again. Your down payment is a small percentage of the purchase price. Okay, it can be low as 5%. It may be 10, 20, or even 35%. It all depends on the property, the kind of property you wish to purchase, and your unique situation. I recommend you aim to save at least 20% because it's going to give you the most flexibility. Um, this is where talking to your financial mortgage agent is going to be the most help that you can. It's going to be the most help. Okay. For now, stick with me as I go through the series because you're going to learn lots of good information as we go along. Many people forget about closing costs. Closing costs is an addition to your down payment. It is roughly a percentage of the purchase price of your house, anywhere from 1.5 to 3 or 4% of the purchase price. I'm going to talk about the amount of down payment you're going to need and the closing costs throughout the series because it's so dependent on so many factors. Hold on a second here. Oh, okay, thank you. So, to recap, as a self-employed person, we have way more options than we originally thought. We should talk to a brokerage-based mortgage agent. We need to be open-minded about other lenders, which means looking beyond the top 5 banks in Canada. We are going to be putting together a kick-ass team of professionals who are going to help us buy a house. We are always going to be improving our credit score, and we're always going to be saving. I invite you to join me live on LinkedIn next Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, and hopefully I will have much more technical success next time. I will get better at this. Over the next several weeks, we're going to be talking more about self-employed and how to buy a house, but specifically next week we're going to be talking about what the lender options are. Okay, we're going to be talking about all things income and what that's going to look like for someone who's self-employed the week after that. And then we're going to be ending the series by tying it all together. The next 4 weeks is going to be very educational for anyone who is self-employed and trying to buy a house. Just to let you know, you will be able to rewatch this episode later on your favorite podcast app like Apple, Google, Spotify, as soon as I figure it out. I would like to thank you for joining me on my very first episode. I think this is going to be, I'm hoping this is going to be first of many. Building My Wealth is meant to be a resource for people to learn from industry experts on how you can build your wealth. I have interviews in the works for upcoming episodes, and the goal is to cover anything and everything about wealth building in Canada. I will keep you posted on that. Until then, have a wonderful day. Take care. Goodbye.